I'm not usually afraid of trying new things, but the idea of these cameras and people watching me makes it a very different prospect. Okay. Hello, my name is Ben Barnes, and I'm here with BuzzFeed to talk about my first times. I'm nervous now. First kiss. I suspected you might throw in some things like this. That is quite a cute story. Recently, I was at one of the pre-Oscars events, something like that, and I bumped into this woman, an extremely accomplished script writer, and she had written huge blockbuster movies, and she just stared at me, and we sort of recognized each other. We had shared our first kiss together when we were about 13 or 14, something like that. It was amazing, and I hadn't really seen her at all since then, and she was now writing these massive movies, so it was, first kiss on the streets of Wimbledon. Don't know why I said that. The first person who believed in you, that's a good one. My mum and dad, I'm sure they believed in me from before I could speak. They've always been incredibly supportive. But when I was about 14, I used to sing with like a jazz band at my school. A man from a company called the National Youth Music Theatre came to my school to like scout for this national company. And he saw me singing that and asked me to audition for this company, which I then did for the next 4 or 5 years, and that was the thing which really gave me confidence to think that I could maybe be an actor in my life, so thank you, Jeremy. My first heartbreak, I feel like I was very lucky heartbreak-wise. I was in my late 30s. Almost went through life unscathed, but I actually wouldn't wish that on anyone. My first heartbreak definitely was one of the catalysts for me to start sharing songs that I'd written. I think it's important to find the edges of what it's possible to feel as a person, and I think heartbreak is one of those. If you never experience it, then it's difficult to know what the opposite of that would feel like. First celebrity crush. I definitely had a poster of Cindy Crawford on my bedroom wall at one point. I had a Whitney Houston poster. She was definitely one of my first crushes. My first memory from filming Prince Caspian. In the audition process, I was asked if I could ride horses, and I said that I could. I could not. And so when I arrived in New Zealand, they put me into some very intensive horse riding training, which eventually ended up sort of like galloping, cantering through forests and jumping over tree branches and things. But it started in this horse riding centre where they put you in the helmet and all the gear, and the producers came down after about 3 sessions, and I remember one of the producers watched me for about 20 minutes, and then I got off feeling quite proud that I hadn't fallen off, and he said, brother, it looks like the horse is riding you. Ooh, the first time that I heard about the Harry Potter fan casting. Yes, for those of you who don't know, there has been a fan casting, which I think probably started on Twitter, where people were advocating for there to be a film made of the Marauders, so a sort of prequel to the Harry Potter stories, and people were insistent that it was myself and Andrew Garfield and Aaron Taylor-Johnson for these characters, but now it's sort of 20 years later or 15 years later, and now we're the right age to just be the characters in the original stories. I didn't hear about it for a very long time. I was very confused for a very long time that people would ask me to sign copies of Harry Potter books, or they would give me these Gryffindor scarves or Sirius Black wands, and I felt the urge to tell every single person, you know, I was in the Narnia films, not Harry Potter. So that was very, very confusing to me for a lot of years, and it wasn't till probably 4 or 5 years ago that I didn't know that was happening. The first time I decided to pursue music. Music was actually probably my first passion. In high school, I would play the drums in bands, and I sung like Stevie Wonder, like Soul Night tribute concerts and Sinatra tribute concerts, and I thought music would be what I would want to go into, and I was signed when I was 19 to kind of sing jazz stuff, and it was all over in about 3 weeks, I think. And then I was in a very, very, very bad boy band for about 5 minutes, which I quit as soon as we did our first performance because I was devastated. So when I was 19 is the answer, but then I had almost a 20-year gap while I was acting. I'd played musicians in different films and things, but it was almost 20 years before I felt confident to start releasing my own music and my own songs, and yeah, now I'm doing a world tour with my album out, so I do wonder why I waited so long, but life sometimes doesn't pan out exactly how you plan it. The first book I remember loving as a kid. The first books I probably remember loving, honestly, were probably the Roald Dahl stories. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, James and the Giant Peach, all of those stories. I do still have my copy of the Narnia books. I know I had it when I was 8, and my copy has Ben Barnes aged 8, and the G is backwards. There was also a little sticker in it of a bear, and it said, "I can't bear to be without my books," which I think is both extremely nerdy and quite sweet. The first time you met your Shadow and Bone co-star, Jessie Mei Li, I remember meeting most of the cast of Shadow and Bone in a restaurant in Budapest in Hungary. And I remember I'd finished reading the Six of Crows books, and I turned up at this restaurant to meet everybody. And I think I was the last person to arrive because I'd been doing a costume fitting or something, and they were all sitting around the table, and I remember thinking, what perfect casting from these books. They all just jumped off the page into this like Italian restaurant. I knew exactly who everyone was playing, even though I sort of hadn't been told yet. I don't think Jessie was there. I think I met Jessie at the studio the day before that or the day after. I'd found a little necklace of antlers in the story. Actually, it's kind of devastating. My character just murders a stag and infuses part of the antler into Elena's collarbone as part of a sort of dastardly magical plot. Come to think of it, that was a really dark gift to give her this antlers necklace the first time I met her, but she was playing the lead in the show, and it was one of her first jobs, and I just sort of wanted to wish her luck with it. But yeah, that was the story of our first meeting. My first big letdown. The letdown that's jumping to mind is the first sort of job that I was really very much in the running for that I didn't get. I remember doing 10 auditions for a film called Across the Universe, which was a musical film with the Beatles music in it. And I was obsessed with the Beatles. And I'd done 10 auditions for this film, and they flew myself and Jim Sturgis, who ended up playing that character, to New York for the final auditions with the director and with Evan Rachel Wood, who was already cast in it. And then the next day I just got a phone call saying they're going with the other guy. That was utterly heartbreaking because I hadn't really got used to how much rejection there was in this business at that point. But I ended up working with Evan Rachel Wood on Westworld, and she actually has sung with me at some of my shows and stuff, so we kind of brought the thing full circle. But yeah, that one definitely stung. The first time you were recognised in public, I was in New York. And we were at the premiere of Prince Caspian. I was with my mum and dad, and we were in a coffee shop across the street from where all the press junket and the interviews were happening. And somebody came up to me and said, "You're Prince Caspian." And I said, "The film's not out yet, how do you know that?" And they sort of pointed, and there was like a massive poster of me holding a sword, like looking down the lens of the camera. But actually, come to think of it, that wasn't the first time I was recognised, because I think we did the press junket in Japan, and I remember walking off the plane to dead silence, but hundreds of people just following me with their phones, just really respectfully, just kind of filming you arriving at the airport, just following you along the concourse, and it was so bizarre, because I hadn't been recognised very much at that point, it was just kind of incredible to me. Those are the two incidents that are jumping to mind. The first thing most people say when they recognise you on the street. "Oh, you're that guy in that thing, are you?" No? Honestly, I've been so lucky with the people that I've kind of accrued as a sort of fan network. It's always very kind and loving things. I actually, for the very first time a few weeks ago, somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, I love your new song, Nevermind." And I went, "Oh, thank you so much." And then they sort of walked off, and I went, "Hang on a minute. Have you ever seen me in anything like as an actor?" And he went, "No, are you an actor?" That filled me with joy that someone had kind of found the music separately from the acting. It was kind of like a fun thing. The first thing on your current to-do list. The first thing on my current to-do list is to sleep. I have been on tour for a month now, sleeping on a tour bus. I use the word sleeping very, very loosely. It's like sleeping on a giant aggressive lawnmower while it's on. I've not been able to sleep on this bus at all. And then the rest of the band kind of wake up going, "Oh, morning, don't you feel like sleeping on this bus is like being just like rocked to sleep like you're a baby?" No, I don't feel that way. Help me. And now it is time for my first tries, and I have no idea what these are. The first time trying boba tea? Okay, this is my first time trying boba tea or bubble tea. It looks like a delicious chocolatey type drink, but that could be very wrong. I don't know why I've never tried it. I remember Jessie Mei Li on Shadow and Bone asked me to try it. The one that she had did not look like this. It had like orangey fish egg looking things in it, and I was very suspicious of that. But this one looks much more delicious, so I have exactly zero expectation of what this might taste like. So it's got one of those fun piercy lids. I'm not usually afraid of trying new things, but the idea of these cameras and people watching me makes it a very different prospect. And now I'm just giggling. Okay. Why? The bubbly bits at the bottom just straight up and in. You have to chew it. You shouldn't have to chew a drink. Oh, if you pull the straw up to the top, this part is delicious. Like a honey, milky hug. This part? What is it? It's really slimy. I don't like slimy. Recite this line from Prince Caspian for the first time since 2008. Brackets in original accent. I am Prince Caspian. Just sounded like a lisp. I am Prince Caspian. I am Prince Caspian.
Explain the lore a little bit for people who don't know, like why the accent was dropped.
In the first film, there was a group of characters called the Telmarines, of which Prince Caspian was a member, and they cast as my uncle a wonderful Italian actor, but they also cast some Spanish actors as some of the other Telmarines. There wasn't really a sort of a consensus on what the accent of a Telmarine was. I remember the director asking me to just do something in between. And then we did the third film, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. The director was a brilliant man named Michael Apted. He was a very straightforward man, and he sat down with me before we started and he went, "Now, this ridiculous accent you've been doing, we'll drop that, shall we?" And I went, but it's part of the canon of like I've already done it in this is a sequel. I can't just not do it. And he went, "You will drop the accent." And I went, "I will drop the accent." So that's why I'm just English again in the third film. The first time trying a head massager on camera. I don't think I've ever tried a head, but I see. I feel like
someone to do it for you?
Yeah, always better if someone else does it. Oh, okay. It feels really nice. I'm so sleepy. First time trying to do Elphaba's battle cry. Well, BuzzFeed, I'm one step ahead of you here, because on my tour, I do a song where I do a call or repeat with the audience, and then I sneakily trick them by doing the battle cry from Wicked. But you're gonna try and make me do it now, and I don't think that's fair, because I had a show last night, and it's the morning. I tell you what, I'll try it, but then if it's really awful, I am trying to have a music career here, so I can't even speak properly, let alone do this. There you go. Bye, BuzzFeed. Thanks for having me. Those were my firsts, and you can catch me on tour in Europe throughout February, and my album, Where the Light Gets In, is out now.